One tweet. Give me another one. The second tweet. There it is. People can hear us, but they can't see us right now. There we go.
I'll give you a retweet too.
Well, thank you, sir. Tuesday, November 6th. 4-game slate on this just gross NBA day. I'm getting some grief in chat saying that I'm a Hornets homer, so I went ahead and put on all my Hornets gear, Hornets shirt, Hornets hat. I don't have Hornets underwear on because I don't own those. Also not a Hornets fan, but that's neither here nor there. Laffy, what's going on, man?
Are you really not a Hornets fan?
I mean, like, I'll cheer for them because I live here now, but it's not, I don't have like a team affiliation.
Do you have fandom of any team in any sport?
Liverpool soccer. For sure. So like,
Wait,
I used
really?
to, I just don't
Really?
anymore.
So your fandom comes for your biggest fandom comes for a team that is not even in the country.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why. Like, I don't generally have to hear other people talk about it. Like, there's nothing worse than listening to someone else talk about their like season-long fantasy football team and shit. But like, I've removed myself from that. You know, I was a Duke fan, big time. Braves, Redskins, but from doing this, like, I just don't have that personal tie to it any longer.
That's interesting. I never lost mine. Never lost the personal tie, but I also think it has to do with where I live.
That's a very true statement. Speaking as someone from the state of Pennsylvania for 25 years, when that is in your blood, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, you live around here. I don't like to use the word tribal because I view it more as just like a familial thing. Like it brings everyone together. But who am I kidding, dude? It's tribal. It's tribal with a lot of people in the Philly area for sure.
It really is. Just sports in general, even in anything in the Northeast, it's whether it's Philly or Pittsburgh or like, you know, Boston, New York, like.
Sure.
All of these sports teams have relatively fanatical fan bases.
Yep.
Joe Rogan's talked about it. Like, I think it's because of the weather. It's a bonding thing when it's cold and it sucks.
Shit, it could be. Look at Buffalo, man. Like, look at Buffalo and Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know, it's true. Yeah, it could be. It definitely could be. But there's also another big factor surrounding that is that they're not big college towns either. At least a lot of them aren't. Like, you're gonna get some big, you know, like like you go out in central PA and like that and stuff like that. Sure, you have Penn State and everything, but
yeah,
around the Philly area, the surrounding area, not big college people. You know, obviously you'll get your exceptions, but mostly all pro stuff, and you get that with a lot of these other places. Then you go places where they don't really have any pro teams and this, and then it's college, and then it's different, but. Yeah, I don't know, man.
It probably doesn't help that like the college basketball scene in the Philadelphia area is all centered around like smart people schools.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Fair point.
Like it's all like high level academic institutions in their rivalries.
No, you're right.
Get a different kind of crowd there, but like you don't have like fanatical Miami Dolphins.
Well, there's
fans.
Villanova though too.
Still a great academic school.
Sure, but I wouldn't say it's like, you know, Harvard.
It's not. We don't have a lot of like Florida State. Not that I'm shitting on Florida State's academics, but like we're going there for the athletics.
What an asshole!
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Dick. No, I got you. Yeah, I went to Temple. It's not like we were known for, you know.
But even still. I don't know. Maybe I'm overrating the academics
of
everything in the Northeast.
You're overrating Temple. I can assure you of that. I mean, it's not. Temple's not a bad. Well, no, Temple's not a bad school. Like,
oh no, not at all. I mean, I applied. School. I thought I was going there for a brief moment.
Really?
Yeah. It was either Temple, Slippery Rock, or Kutztown. I went to Kutztown to get more fucked up with one of my buddies.
It's certainly not prestigious, though. Talking about Temple. But I don't know. Whatever, man. We got 4 awesome basketball games to talk about, including You got the Mavs, you got the Suns, you got the Hawks. So at least one of 3 games all has just a dog shit team in it. That should be fun.
It's just a not appealing slate whatsoever.
No.
It needs
no,
one
it's
more
not.
game. 4-gamer on a
I mean,
Tuesday.
if you're looking at value, just purely from a value standpoint, guys like Bembry and Kevin Herter are going to be like 100% owned.
Yeah. Like I said before the show started, Ersan Ilyasova is the most expensive power forward on FanDuel at $5,500.
That's gruesome.
I don't even know how to play that.
Actually, outside of Giannis on DraftKings, Harrison Barnes is the most expensive. It goes from Giannis at 12.6 to Barnes at 5.5.
7 of the 12 guys that I have projected for more than 15 minutes at power forward are at $4,000 or less.
Oh, man.
The whole damn position's a punt.
That's incredible. Yeah. On DraftKings, there's a $7,100 price drop from the first player to the next.
I feel like you could leave $4,000 in salary on the table today.
I mean, if you're not playing Giannis.
Right.
Yeah, but you probably want to play Giannis, right? On a 4-gamer?
Let's find out.
Let's do it.
First game up. The Charlotte Hornets hosting the Atlanta Hawks. 122.5 implied total for the Hornets. It's the highest by 8 points.
You notice the over-unders are starting to come down.
They are.
The pace is not continuing.
Nope.
It's not sustaining.
It is not. 111 implied total for the Hawks. So the Hornets 11.5 point favorites at home. Let's start on the Hornets side. And I mean, the main cog in the Hornets machine, Kemba Walker, 9,200 on FanDuel, 9,300 on DraftKings. I hate saying it because like it makes me I don't like takes like this, but like clearly he's in play. I don't really love the price tag, but there aren't a ton of options, particularly in the spend up range. He's one of 4 guys above $9,000 on FanDuel. 3 of those guys are at point guard.
Dude, yeah, Kemba is just seeing an outrageous amount of usage this year, so it really doesn't matter. You're getting a quality matchup for him. So there's nothing about the matchup you don't like, first of all. How do you not have interest in somebody like Kemba here? This is what it's going to come down to is, the reason this slate's kind of weird is you have Giannis and then you have Lillard, you have Kemba, you have John Wall, you have Devin Booker. And I'll leave it there. I'll leave it at those 5 guys. If you're playing 150 lineups, then obviously you can rotate them and you can take a stand. You can leave one of them out of your player pool entirely, maybe a $9,600 Dame. We'll get there though.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to make the decision somewhere. With Kemba Walker, he's obviously priced up because he's been taking a ton of shots and because it's a 4-game slate. But, you look at his last 3 games and Kemba's usage has come down significantly. Now, I expect it to go back up. And on the season, I expect him to sit around, 28, 30%. I think was fair. But he was definitely running at an unsustainable pace. That usage was up a lot from last year, a lot. Now, Dwight Howard's no longer there. They don't have a high usage center. They really don't have many guys they're going to take, that much away from him. But I do think that the 33 or 34% he was at is a little high, and it makes sense that it came down. The truth is, though, at home against Atlanta, this is a really good spot. And I actually, if forced to choose between like Kemba and Dame, because that'll likely be the case in a lot of spots, I like Kemba more. The only concern, again, is that this game did they blow the doors off of Atlanta? They're 11.5 point favorites. That's the biggest concern here because we know that Kemba We know that Kemba will, get some rest if this game's a massive blowout. And Dame, I expect that game to stay really competitive throughout. That would be the one downside to it.
I've got one other downside for you, particularly on FanDuel. Kemba Walker is the chalkiest player on the entire slate per our ownership.
Well, there you go. I was looking at DraftKings. What's his price on FanDuel?
Cheaper than DraftKings. 9,200 on FanDuel, 9,300 on DK. So
that makes sense.
Certainly. Where is he on the DK? Kemba is 2, 4, 6, 8. He's 10th. 26%.
10th. Okay.
Yeah. Bradley Beal chalk on DK. Again, we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, Bradley Beal coming in at 7-4 against. I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah. I guess I see it. I mean, that's fine. Yeah. It's a good play. Yeah. I just don't. This slate's just going to force your hand on pretty much everything, so it kind of sucks.
Yeah. If I'm going to end up having a lot of the Hornets on FanDuel, their price points are significantly better. They're not as great on DraftKings. Like Batum's only $200 more expensive. MKG is $300 cheaper. Cody Zeller is only $300 more expensive. Malik Monk's the same price. Like all these guys just have a way better price point on FanDuel than they do on DK.
Yeah, I guess the question here is, let's say you're on DraftKings, are you going to look to get a bunch of these 8-9K guys in and exclude Giannis, who is 12-6, or fit him in and then subsequently or naturally have to fade some of the other guys that are in that 8 and 9K range?
I think that honestly, if I were playing on DK, I would just take whatever I got of Giannis. He wouldn't be a priority. He wouldn't be an exclusion. But I think that there are so many options that show the exact same sort of level that he does. Not from like a total upside perspective. That would be a ridiculous thing to say. But because of the prices of everybody else, like Bradley Beal or even like Trae Young, Chris Middleton, Bledsoe, like all these guys are in like the mid 7s. And it's really easy to provide value at that number than to provide any value at 12-6 unless Giannis goes for 90.
Yeah, Adam and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like this season, it feels like the studs are really letting everybody down. Giannis has been an exception to some extent, but not really. It just, when you look at balanced lineups and the ones where you jam in the studs, and we kind of agreed that it has something to do with pace. It has to, because it's narrowing the gap and allowing these 7 and 8K guys to be able to produce more with those additional possessions per game. Now it'll do so for the high end player too, but it definitely, the gap is less wide, is not as wide as it was before. So that makes it tough on a 4-game slate. And it's such an outrageous price tag for Giannis. It definitely, it makes it a situation where I'm going to look at the projected ownership and base a lot on that. If everyone else feels the same way because they've been burned by Westbrook and Davis and LeBron and Harden too many times, then we can, revisit that. But, if people are going to jam in Giannis just because he's the highest priced guy, then I'll certainly, I'll oblige going with the more balanced lineup. And I think this team gives it to you, right? With Kemba Walker, you have that balance. I still think Trae Young is a little bit pricey. He really, to start the year, has become the epitome of like a boom or semi-bust player. Because you look at, he has that 56 fantasy point game, the 60, and then a 40. Outside of that, he had 27, 29, 24, 26, 31, 30. Like, not stuff that's going to get you over the top at 7,300. And this isn't a particularly enticing matchup either.
No, not at all. Unless you assume that he's going to play 30 plus minutes no matter what happens in this game. That's really the only.
Yeah, if that's the case, sure.
That's your only real option. You need to make sure that Trae Young plays in the minutes. And, by all accounts, it doesn't seem like that type of game. He's a real, like 7,500 for Trae Young on FanDuel, 7,300 on DK. I'm getting a lot of him. I'm not comfortable with it right now, but he's only projected to be 15% owned on FanDuel. Let me see what we have him on DK. I assume less than that. I can't even find him. Trae Young, 9% on DraftKings. So, like, I'm going to have way more than the field of Trae Young.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the shitty thing too, is like these small slates will force you to play guys that aren't actually optimal, but it's all an ownership thing. What about the Taurean Prince? You look at Prince, he's doubtful.
Yeah, I have him out right now.
Yeah. Oh, is he actually ruled out, or are you saying you have
no. I did not project him with any minutes today. But he is not officially out, to my knowledge.
Me neither. If you look at Prince, and you look at his rotations, let's just take last game. He and Bembry just subbed in and out for each other throughout this game. So I think that's pretty interesting. Not it's not that it's interesting. It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Throughout the whole first half, he was his backup. And then in the second half, I don't know, did Prince get in foul trouble? Yeah, he got in foul trouble. So that makes sense. It means he had I think he had 4 fouls early in that game. So they brought in Kevin Huerter, but you still have Bembry, who's going to get run in this game. There's no question. Prince played how many minutes last game? Prince played 22 minutes last game because he got an early foul trouble in the second half. So you had Bembry playing only 23, and that's because he didn't gain from that foul trouble in the second half. It was actually Huerter that played, 29 minutes and benefited greatly from that run in the second half. You know, if you look at that, he came in for Prince in the second half. So I think there's a very good chance that he starts this game, and you get potentially 28, 29, 30 minutes from him, while Bembry also plays around 26 or so.
Yeah, I have Bembry in for 27 right now, so it looks like we're on the same page here.
All right, yeah. And obviously this is a spot where like you're looking for most of the value, so, or some value at least.
Yeah, trying to figure out guys from the Hawks that can play big minutes and may play in the blowout will be an excellent spot to look for value.
Exactly.
I don't like projecting blowouts, but this is not a good spot for Atlanta.
I hate projecting blowouts, but you have, well, also Jeremy Lin played 24 and 23 minutes in 2 blowout losses just the past couple days. That's really interesting because Jeremy Lin is the type of guy that can actually get hot and is actually a solid per minute producer.
Yeah.
And if you're expecting this game to blow out, which again, not in the business of predicting blowouts, but this is one of those games that is likely to blow out. Of course, unless of course it's very simple, unless the Hawks get hot from 3-point range, then I have a feeling that this is going to be tough. I was just looking to see Charlotte is allowing 34% shooting from beyond the arc. So that's not great. It's not bad. It's just in the middle. It's right in the middle of the league. But I still think that they get at him. And Jeremy Lin is kind of interesting, but only if this game turns into a blowout, then he gives you the 23 minutes. If not, he might play 10 minutes. So
yeah, Lin should, if Jeremy Lin can play like 8 or 9 minutes in the fourth quarter of a blowout, I mean, he's probably going to end up being one of the better value plays of the day because he's simply overqualified for that role in real life. I assume.
Exactly. No, you're right. He's playing against, the back of the bench throughout the entirety of the fourth. We'll take it.
Gets to go out and roast Tony Parker.
Risk. Right. I mean, it's a big risk too, but so is anything on a 4-gamer.
The Hornets are second in turnover rate offensively, like the good way. Hawks are 29th offensively in turnover rate. Like, it's just all signs point to the Hornets.
Hey, it makes sense though. They play at the fastest pace in the league, right? So you're playing at the fastest pace. You're sloppy with the ball. It'll happen. That'll happen. You're right though. They are second behind only the Suns in turnover rate.
Manningdale City says, since when are the Hornets world beaters? Are they even over 500? You don't have to be a world beater. You just have to play the Hawks.
Yeah, it's true.
This is not an indict, this is not a testament to the Hornets' skill level so much as it is a testament to the lack of skill in Atlanta.
Right.
Particularly with probably their best player out.
Definitely one of their best wing defenders too. Yeah. So not to say that the Hornets have a juggernaut on the wing like that, but still, they're not. I mean, hey, you don't ask us, ask Vegas. Ask people betting this line. Yeah. They're 11.5-point favorites. So
that line's not going to suddenly become 7 unless we find out that Kemba's out.
No, they're not right. They're not world beaters, but they should certainly be Hawks beaters. I mean, it's 11.5-point line in Charlotte. And the interesting thing about this Charlotte team this season is they actually have done, they have won a few games in blowout fashion where they just run away with it. So it wouldn't surprise me if that happens today. And the reason that happens is because they've had, 1, 2, 3 games they've won by like 30, like right around 30 points this season. Those are big blowouts.
Really is.
So, and it's because you get guys like Monk off the bench, or you get anyone off the bench. They have some shooters that if they get hot, then it's all over.
They have the 6th best point differential this year. Maybe they are world beaters.
That's interesting. I assume that'll come down, but that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they have the 3rd best offense in the league, 115.7 points per 100 possessions. They have the 13th best defense. They are not going to be the 3rd best offense for the entire season. That would be a real tough sell for me, but maybe we're underselling how good the Hornets have been. I mean, we expected them to be decent last year, and they just underperformed. I mean, it's not like anybody out there thinks Kemba, Batum, Lamb, Zeller, Marvin Williams, it's a solid team they've been playing together for how many years now? It's probably really easy to just go out and smack around Atlanta.
Well, dude, they're better. They're better without Dwight.
That's a great point. Dwight Howard does suck dick at basketball.
Well, he refuses to play in the pick and roll. He makes the offense one-dimensional when he's out there because you know what he's not going to do. Dwight's not really helping basketball teams at this stage of his career. So that's where I'm at. By the way, I do think that guys in this game, because of the total, because of the way that if it does happen to blow out or if it doesn't, guys like Lamb, guys like Monk, you're going to want, if you are someone that plays $150, you're going to want some exposure to these guys just because Atlanta's defense is dreadful. Yep. They play at a league high pace. They, as Josh mentioned, they turn the ball over at an elevated rate. Like everything Atlanta does is just friendly for these spot up shooters or even ball dominant shooters that can get to the rim with no problem. So Charlotte does have a bunch of guys that could come out here and just end up having big games because Atlanta cannot guard them.
I'm going to end up having way too much of like the mid tier of the Hornets because of this. But like you said, the Lambs, the Monks. I mean, Tony Parker is probably not going to play in a blowout, so he would be one of the guys that I would avoid. Miles Bridges. Like, I want the guys that I think are going to play 20 minutes no matter how the game goes, with the potential to play 28 if it goes even better. Because everybody's priced under $4,700 that's of any value on the Hornets. Like I have so much exposure to the Hornets right now, it's insanity.
Yeah, like Bridges will get blowout run.
Right.
Monk should get blowout run. And then on the other side, Herter should get blowout run. Actually, I would expect him to get blowout run ahead of DeAndre Bembry, actually. So there's value in this game. You might have to plug your nose and play him, but there is. Like Bembry's a decent value. Herter's a decent value. Bridges and these guys, they're all guys that the score will dictate how good they are, but I'll have some of all of them, even though I don't even know if I want to play this slate.
Well, I'll play because, what else are we going to do?
Of course. I said I don't know if I want to play it, but obviously we will.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend time with my wife. I'm going to degenerately enter 150 lineups into a 4-game garbage slate.
There it is. There it is.
What are my other options here?
That's a good point.
Being a good person and going to go buy flowers and cook dinner? No.
Right. Who wants to do that?
I'm going to eat 2 Hot Pockets. Stress over whether or not I should have 5% or 6% of Willie Hernan Gomez. I don't know.
I love it.
I look, the Hornets should be a very popular option. On FanDuel, they're really not as popular as I would have expected. The second most popular guy on the Hornets in our FanDuel exposure right now is Marvin Williams, 35%. And there's a reason for that, obviously. The power forward position is a downright wasteland today. Here are the high exposures for power forward on FanDuel tonight. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, 40. Aminu, 40. Marvin Williams, 35. And then 4 guys in the 15 to 18 range. Markieff, Ed Davis, Amari Spellman, and Josh Jackson. That is disgusting.
Yeah, it's heinous. It's absolutely disgusting. Why don't we move on to that next game and talk about a few more of them?
I have one question for you before we do that.
Sure.
There are 13 guys, and they're the guys that you would expect to be projected in my stuff more than 15 minutes at power forward. What do you think the chances are that the best value play at power forward comes from outside that comes from outside of that entire group? It's way higher than 0. Any random asshole
comes from outside. Read the group again.
All right, Ilias. Let me see who I have that's below that. Like, if I told you that, like, I have Dwight Powell projected for 13 minutes. If he were the best valued power forward, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Rashawn Holmes, Caleb Swanigan, Ryan Anderson. Like, these are all guys that are projected for like garbage minutes that I won't have, that no one will have. And on a day like today, when it's
Ed Davis could be the best value at power forward. Like, that's easily very feasible.
Maxi Kleber. Feasible. Like, it's just
I'll tell you though, Ed Davis would actually probably be, if we're talking about one of those guys, just at first glance, would probably be the one for me. For one simple reason. He's producing like 1.2 let me check. He's producing like actual, and Davis has always been a decent per minute producer, and it's funny because he's actually always been better with his minutes lower than when they shoot through the roof. He's averaging 1.12 fantasy points per minute, so that's good. He's playing about 17 minutes per game, but he can get up to 20 if it's a solid game and he's playing well, or if Jared Allen gets in some foul trouble. He's facing Phoenix. Like, Ed Davis to me would be one of those guys where I could say, yeah, I don't mind plugging him in there, hoping for 20, 25, which is doable, and he's done it before this year.
He has the 3rd best fantasy points per possession projection out of everybody at power forward. T. McBee just won the chat. What if I told you there was a night in 2018 where Caleb Swanigan was the best power forward value on FanDuel? 30 for 30 presents Black Swanigan.
That's good.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, I have a lot of Kent Bazemore. It's the only guy we didn't touch on from the Atlanta side. 6,400 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK. Does that stand out to you positively or negatively? Just want to get your take since I have a lot of them right now.
Yeah, it doesn't really stand out to me at all.
Okay.
You got to take a stand somewhere. Like, or not even, you're not even really taking a stand. Like, you're going to have to play someone, and why not from that game?
Right.
I mean, if it's coming from this game, there's going to be a lot of possessions, man. There's going to be a lot of scoring. The Hornets too, by the way, it's not, I think, let me see here. The Hornets are playing, their pace has come down. It was actually higher to start the season. They're bottom 10. They're 10th slowest pace, but it's just a huge pace up matchup for them. And then on the other side, you have we're expecting no Taurean Prince.
Yeah.
I don't think Taurean Prince makes a massive difference in terms of usage, but it should help Kent Bazemore a little bit. And and maybe it keeps the game a little bit closer. I don't know. I'm really just reaching here, to be honest.
That's
But
fair.
let me say this much though: Trae Young has played 84 minutes with Prince off the court this year. In those minutes, he has a 44% usage rate. Kent Bazemore has a 34% usage rate. Jeremy Lin in 94 minutes with him off has a 26% usage rate. So this is on Wowie. So
Whew.
I'm a little bit concerned that those numbers aren't right just because of how high they seem. But Trae Young without Prince in 84 minutes, 44.3% usage, 56.5% assist rate, which is elite, like elite. 1.72 DraftKings points per minute. Kent Bazemore, 34% usage. Assist rate doesn't mean much because it's Bazemore, but that's 19%, 1.25 fantasy points per minute. If those numbers are accurate, and I'll go and back check them I'll check them on another site, then that means that those two guys they become elite plays.
Yeah.
If that's accurate. If that is accurate, Trae Young and Kent Bazemore, I'll change my mind right here. If that's true, these guys immediately become phenomenal options. You can't avoid that. You can't ignore it. So there you go.
53% Trae Young in my first crunch, 65% Kent Bazemore. I'm bringing the heat, people.
If I'm ever gonna pay over $7K on DraftKings for Trae Young, it'll be on a slate with 4 games.
For sure. Absolutely. Get out of this ugly one. Dallas and Washington. 112 implied total for the Mavs. 113.5 for the Wizards. 1.5 point favorites in Dallas. This Wizards team is super dreadful. Let's start with Dallas, though. DeAndre Jordan, 8,600 on FanDuel, 7,900 on DK. I'm getting a lot of him just sort of by default. He's only 8,600, I guess, would be the way that I would say it. But he also gets a matchup against Washington, who it's either DeAndre dominating because Dwight can't move, or Dwight's not on the floor and DeAndre gets to play with Jan Mahinmi or whatever else they try to do at center. So what do you think of DeAndre?
Yeah, I think he's fine. I mean, I almost would like Dwight Howard has played 23. That was a game was a blowout, and then 31 minutes over his first 2 games. Scott Brooks loves running his veteran centers into the ground, like he just wants to kill them.
Yeah.
He did the same with Marcin Gortat and then sent him off to the Clippers. But with DeAndre Jordan, because he's under 8K, I have no issue with it. He's coming off 2 underwhelming games. One against San Antonio wasn't great, but the 19 rebounds helped. This game should stay competitive. So there are certainly factors that play into DeAndre being a solid option. The only question is he going to continue to hit 83% of his free throws? You know, he's shooting actually a little bit lower than he usually does just from a field goal percentage. But this is a guy who, if he attempts 6 shots per game, you need him to hit 5.
Yeah.
So I think DeAndre is a perfectly fine play, but I also think that he's a little bit more volatile than we give him credit for, just in that if he doesn't rack up 19 rebounds, there's a very good chance he finishes with single-digit scoring, and then you have one of these 25 fantasy point games that we're left with. So that's the only thing. I haven't crunched any lineups yet. I haven't made any lineups yet. But just on the surface, I don't love DeAndre. But whenever he's below 8K, which he is on DraftKings, I'm certainly willing to consider him. And then 8.6 on FanDuel. We'll get to Ayton shortly, but I have a lot to say about Ayton, and I'm kind of there's something about Ayton that has me on him a little bit more than Jordan today.
Okay. Unless my main interest in Jordan, unless you think that Dwight Howard can revolutionize the Wizards rebounding, they are the worst team in rebounding in the league by a considerable margin, which is one of DeAndre Jordan's 2 skills.
I certainly don't think he's going to revolutionize it, but I definitely think that having Dwight Howard out there is a huge upgrade from Jan Mahinmi or Markieff Morris or Jason, what's his name? Smith or whatever the heck his name is. I can't even remember now. Jason Smith. Yeah. Like I don't believe it'll revolutionize it by any stretch, but I do think Dwight Howard is a good rebounder, if that's your question.
I think that Dwight Howard can be a good rebounder. I just have no idea if he's like physically capable of it right now. This is a guy that we've been told can't sit down, has to lay down in between. So like you can't be moving as well as you normally do. It's just impossible.
Yeah, no, probably not. I mean, he would he have 10 rebounds in his last game? Did he block any shots? He had one block.
He's played 54 minutes so far, so like obviously take these numbers with a grain of salt. His offensive rebound rate has been great. His defensive rebound rate has been absolutely awful.
That's interesting.
He's at 16% defensive rebounds right now, and he's normally in like the high 20s.
Interesting. I'd be curious to see what they shot while he was on the floor in those games. The opposing team.
Where could we check that?
I don't know, but what I mean is, if they're like against OKC, they were seemingly hitting every shot that they took. So on a 2-game sample, that's going to naturally lower your defensive rebounding rate.
Oh, for sure.
Just a thought.
Dwight on right now. Effective field goal percentage defensively. I don't fucking know. I can't figure it out.
That's cool. Plus, we wouldn't want EFG anyway. We just want the regular or true shooting would be fine. But to exclude field goal or free throws, and effective has free throws in there.
Yeah, it's not going to be on cleaning the glass. It's a good point. I'd like to look into that because if they shot the lights out, then then it just creates a small sample.
Right. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, look, I don't know. I'm just wondering if that has more to do with it than him not being in great shape, because I don't know if you can be in that bad of health if you can not play anything in the preseason and then miss the first couple of weeks and then play 31 minutes in your second game back. I think he would have played 30 minutes in his first game if it was competitive.
I agree.
He was on pace. He was on pace to play like 34 minutes in that game.
Chat saying, 2-game sample. Yeah, look, I understand that is the smallest of all small samples. But I think it's something to be paid attention to when we know for a fact that Dwight Howard is like without question not healthy.
Yeah, he's not the same Dwight, and he's another year older. So, no, look, dude, I have no issues with DeAndre Jordan whatsoever. It's just, I'll put it simply, he didn't jump off the page at me. That's all.
I expect him to be my most exposed center. And again, we're talking FanDuel. But I expect him to be the guy that I have the most at center today.
All right. I can dig it.
Putting that out there. We'll see.
You mentioned also that Bradley Beal going to be chalky here. I think it's very reasonable. I mean,
fantastic price.
Yeah, it's a good price. It's not a spot that really scares you, like Wes Matthews, assuming that he's guarding him, is again another year older, still having a decent season, but this isn't a matchup that really concerns me all that much. I think this is a Dallas team too that defensively, there's a long way to go before this Dallas team is going to scare anyone defensively. They rank bottom 7 in defensive or bottom 6 in defensive rating, and I expect them to stay in the basement all season long. They've actually looked pretty decent to start the year, at least not in terms of record, but in terms of staying competitive with decent teams. But that just makes this game more interesting because Washington's played like dog shit, and I think this game stays competitive in Dallas. So I'm obviously interested in pretty much most of the players from both sides of this game, as ugly as it sounds. And Doncic is expected to play. He plays. This guy's playing upwards of 40 minutes in close games. We'll put him around 36, 37. And he's still very reasonably priced. Like if Trae Young's going to be the chalk and Doncic is going to be only a few $100s more than him, there's a serious like I will seriously consider going heavier on Doncic than Trae Young, because there's no doubt in my mind that Young can disappoint in this spot. Granted, I love the usage that we talked about there, assuming that number's accurate, because I know Wowie's been acting up a little bit this year, depending on where you use it. So yeah, I think Doncic is interesting. And then of course you have DSJ, you have Dennis Smith Jr., who is coming in at another dirt cheap price point. And despite not having a blow up game this year, Dennis Smith Jr. is still has a lot of the numbers that you're looking for. Like, he has a 27% usage rate this year. It's just that his assist rate has dropped from 30% to 20%, and even his rebounding rate has declined significantly. So his peripheral stats, it's not his scoring. His peripheral stats are what are really killing him. He's actually averaging more points than he did in his rookie season by 1.5 points. It's the assists, it's the rebounds. Even 1.5, 2 assists, 1.5 rebounds per game, that adds up over time. And you'd like to know that he was contributing more. But Doncic is kind of that jack of all trades, and he's kind of eating into everyone else's, even if it's just a little bit from each.
Do you like Dennis Smith tonight if he's chalky? We have him as the fourth most owned player.
No, of course not, because it's very seldom are you going to fade Dennis Smith Jr. and that kills you.
Right.
Very, very, very seldom are you going to say, I'm not playing Dennis Smith Jr. I really hope I make it out alive. Right? You're playing him at 5,700 and hoping that he gives you like 35 to 40. Maybe he has a monster game, but just given how this team functions, a couple of things. One, they didn't have DeAndre Jordan last year.
Yeah.
They didn't have elite rebounding by any stretch. You had Maxi Kleber out there. You had Dirk Nowitzki. You had Dwight Powell. None of these guys were really like competent defenders. Now you have DeAndre Jordan, who is one of the premier rebounders on both sides of the glass in the entire league. Now you have Luka Doncic. In fact, you add both of them to this team, and while Dennis Smith Jr. is still getting up shots, you're still seeing the usage. It's surely taking away a lot of other places. So I think his ceiling is definitely limited, which means if he's chalk, I don't have a problem getting away from that at all.
Yeah, at 5,700, I understand why he's chalky. It's just a price thing. But if he's chalky on this slate, there are enough things around him to offload that, whether that's Kent Bazemore or Aminu, Markieff Morris. Like, all of these guys can have big games. I mean, I don't like Al-Farouq Aminu. I'm just naming guys that are around Dennis Smith's price point. It'll be easy to get off of that massive ownership.
Yeah, it shouldn't be an issue. Really shouldn't.
Harrison Barnes, also quite chalky. I mean, this game in general, let me make sure I get this right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the first 5 guys in our DraftKings ownership come from this game. Bradley Beal, John Wall, Dennis Smith Jr., Harrison Barnes. Dwight Howard is at like 7th. So there's a lot of ownership coming here. And a lot of it has to do with price point. Dennis Smith Jr., way better price on DK. John Wall, 10-4 on FanDuel, 8,800 on DK. Way better price. Beal, way better price. I would be playing a lot of this game on DraftKings as well. What do you think about Wall here? He was not great that last time out.
He was even worse against OKC. That game was an utter disgrace, man. I mean, he shot 8 for 13. It's not even that he was bad. It's the team was just disgustingly bad. You get run off your own court by OKC, man.
Give up a wide open 3 on the first possession coming out of halftime to Terrence Ferguson.
Yeah, it's bad. Like this team, congratulations, you beat the New York Knicks at home. Yeah. Well done. When it comes to Wall, once again, you get into the question of, are you going to, load up on, you get a little bit of value and then go with the 8, 9K guys? We still haven't gotten the Devin Booker, right? We talked about Kemba. We still haven't talked about Lillard. Where does Wall fall into where does Wall fall in there? Wall truthfully, is yet another one of those players that will very rarely kill you when you fade him. You fade him at 7,800, it's a different story. Fade him at 88, 9,000, he gives you 45, 50, and he's only hit 50 twice this season. He's very capable of doing so, and I think if it were to happen, it would come in this game. I do like John Wall. It comes down to how easy is it to fit John Wall, and if you're playing John Wall, who are you going to get? Who are you not going to play? But I do think it's interesting that if Beal's going to be chalk, Wall would be an interesting way to counter that, because if Wall goes off, it's going to be because he's going off in all categories, in scoring and in assists, and he's almost certainly going to take something away from Bradley Beal. So I like Wall. I don't love Wall because it's really hard to ever love John Wall with the way that he's been playing.
Yeah,
he's just kind of giving you the same numbers from night to night. 45, 50, or 40 to 45. Once in a while, throws a 50 in there. And in blowouts, a lot less. But I'm not going to blame him for the blowouts.
We have Beal and Wall as first and third in ownership on DraftKings. John Wall is the second most expensive player on the entire FanDuel slate at 10,400. We're still projecting him with 26% ownership. That's a tough sell for me.
Yeah, you just have to ask yourself, like, okay,
why is he 10-4?
I don't know.
His price went up $1,100.
Going to burn you. If you're afraid that he's going to burn you, then you got to play him. But if you're saying, all right, what are the odds that I don't play John Wall and maybe I go with Devin Booker instead against Brooklyn? Like, how often is it that a $600 cheaper Devin Booker is going to kill me because I didn't play John Wall? To me, it just doesn't seem often enough. No. Whereas, what's Booker's projected ownership on DraftKings?
Not close. Oh, it is close. I meant 26%. So he's 6% behind Wall. Wall with a slight nod.
Booker has to have ownership here against Brooklyn. But that makes more sense.
This is just ridiculous. John Wall, $9,400 against Oklahoma City, lays an absolute egg. Against the Knicks, put up 50 fantasy points at 9,300. They jumped his price $1,100.
It's got to be the 4-game slate.
Has to. It's going to make my decisions a lot easier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? Paying 10-4 for John Wall?
I mean, you need everything to happen perfectly there.
Right. What room for error is there in a John Wall game at 10-4? None.
Like, he put up, this is probably a preseason game, I guess, October 10th against the Pistons. He put up 60. 10th? Yeah. I assume that's a preseason game. No? Or is that game one of the first game of the season?
What the... maybe. Now you got me
1, 2,
confused.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 games. Yeah, that could be the first game of the season. I honestly can't remember. Played 32 minutes, went for 60 fantasy points. Like, that's what you need. And he took 23 shots in that game and didn't turn the ball over like he has been doing. 9 and 7 in 2 out of his last 3 games.
No, I'm sorry. You're right, by the way. The season started, I think the season started like October 16th or around there.
There was an 8-game gap between those two. So this Miami game is probably the first one. But like, you need 60 out of John Wall here.
It was the 16th. It was.
And point guard's the only position today that has like bodies.
Yep. Exactly. No, it's... I'll put it really simply. Like, do you really want to pay $1,200 more for John Wall than Kemba Walker?
No.
I mean, that's kind of the question. And this point guard, John Wall's also, $2,600 more than Trae Young on FanDuel.
Yeah.
He's too expensive.
He's very much too expensive. And it doesn't appear to be depressing his ownership at all. Like, if John Wall was projected to be 8% on FanDuel because his price tag was ridiculous, you can take a different look. But if he's 26% at that number, I have to assume that I'm better off by being less than that 26% number.
Yeah, people just keep playing him. They just keep playing him. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go digging for value at point guard on FanDuel. And the reason I say that is because you're forced into value at power forward.
Yeah.
And then at small forward, unless you're playing Giannis, which, go ahead if you'd like. He's Giannis, but unless you're doing that, you're also going to be getting cheap there. So the only argument for John Wall would be, well, I'm not playing Giannis and I have the cap space, so I'm going to play John Wall and pair him with Kemba Walker or something like that.
I would just take that savings from John Wall and play more Giannis.
Yeah, I mean,
even though
sure.
Giannis is 12.8 and he's twice as expensive as anybody else at small forward, at no point are you ever like, well, Giannis might be too expensive for that number.
Right. I'm not recommending that's what you do. I'm
No.
just saying that it could be a scenario where you're like, these positions suck and I already have to go cheap here, so I have the extra money for John Wall. But that's about it.
Do you like anything else? Go ahead.
No, that's not. I was going to say, like, if you have the extra money sitting there, you like the rest. Well, the rest of your lineup is fine, and you have the extra money from like Trae Young to John Wall. I'm still going to suggest going from Young to Wall because Wall is going to burn you less times than Young. But Young has proven that he has basically the same ceiling as Wall, if not higher anyway. So you do the math. You said anything else from this game?
Yeah, you like anything else on the Dallas side or Washington side that you would want to just talk about specifically?
I think we already talked about most of it. Like Harrison Barnes, he hasn't seen his minutes affected by Doncic, but he just there's zero upside with Barnes. Like Barnes should be sub 5K on DraftKings. I'm really just not amused with him whatsoever. I think Markieff Morris is interesting. I don't hate him, just because you're looking at weak positions there. And then of course I think Porter is probable. So Oubre would have been, a top value, but looking like it probably won't matter.
I don't know. I want to look at his minutes right now. Austin Rivers is $100 above the minimum on DK. Not that like you need to be begging for value somewhere. He played 25 in the most recent one. Porter didn't play, right?
Yeah.
I will very rarely advocate playing Austin Rivers, but he's $100 lower, more than the minimum, and we get any sort of news that he can play over 20 minutes. I think that is a feasible way to go if you want to try to get to Giannis or something on DK. I don't like it, but it is Dallas.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be taking that route.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that I'd have like 30% of him or anything like that, but when you can get someone that can get over 20 minutes and potentially play if this game goes weird, I'll take my chances when there's a really interesting price point. 3,100 is just simply like he should be like 34 or 35. I know it's weird, but like that every little couple $100 bucks might matter.
It could, but for me, I would just rather pay a few hundred more for like Isaiah Cannon against Brooklyn, or Bridges, who could get an ample amount of blowout run at 36.
Yeah.
For me, there's enough guys under 4K where I probably won't be looking to go to Sir Rivers.
Sure. And he'll only look better if we get word that like Otto Porter is out or something along those lines, where minutes could be a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to die on an Austin Rivers hill today.
Yeah, I would hope not, man. Plus, last game out, that was I thought that turned into a blowout. I could be wrong. Let me see. They were up by 15 points
13.
towards the end. Yeah, but let's see. Rivers ended up playing the whole fourth quarter there.
Yeah, probably not going to happen again.
No. Oubre didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. So he actually played. He was out there for the whole fourth with Jeff Green, Dwight, Wall, and Beal. So yeah, so you had to have had that's actually a really weird lineup. Wall, Beal, Rivers, Green, and Howard. That is a super small lineup outside of Howard. Uh, that's strange. Maybe what did Oubre? I see if there's any foul trouble, but there wasn't. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, I'm not going Austin. I would just for me, Cannon's getting 30 plus minutes a game against Brooklyn. He's not good, but he's cheap.
You want to head to the Suns and Nets?
Let's do it.
Suns and Nets 109.75 implied total for the Suns, 108.75 for the Nets. 1 point favorite for the Phoenix Suns. Fantastic. We'll start at the top, I guess. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. 8,100 for Booker on FanDuel, 8,200 for Booker on DraftKings. I'm quite a fan of Devin Booker in this spot. What do you think about Booker?
Yeah, I love him here. I love both of these guys. Brooklyn amazingly playing at the third lowest pace this year, which is funny because a lot of times these bad teams with a lot of chuckers will try and speed the pace up, but that hasn't been the case with a lot of bad teams this year. But still, Phoenix is their pace is what 100. They're 18th in pace. I don't know. Maybe bringing DeAndre Ayton into the mix slows them down a bit, but I don't see why it would. I think you actually could see their pace increase. Still, that's not a big concern to me. I love this spot for Devin Booker. I love this spot for Ayton. And the great thing about Ayton is, like, even if this game blew out one way or the other, it doesn't matter because Kokoskov's giving DeAndre Ayton, he's giving him fourth quarter run no matter what. Like,
do you think that continues with Chandler gone now and Rashawn Holmes being the backup?
I mean,
just hypothetically,
Rashawn Holmes is trash, man. Like, I hear what you're saying. Like, why would they give why would you give Chandler blowout run when he's 80 years old?
Right. Like, I could see Chandler being like, I'm not going out there for this shit.
Right. But exactly. But I also think a lot of it was developmental for Ayton. Like,
without question,
this is a season where you really have nothing to play for. You've got a few young guys that could develop into just absolute stars. We already know that Booker's on the way, and DeAndre Ayton surely looks like he's going to be a stud. So, I do think there is reason for giving this guy some run in the fourth quarter, even if the game's out of reach. Because let's be honest, it's not like in a blowout, you couldn't just take like Dragan Bender and play him at the 5. Who cares? It's a blowout. Play whoever you want. Throw Ryan Anderson there. Anybody. It's, to me, it's not like you couldn't have figured something out to get Ayton off the court.
Man, they don't play Dragan Bender at all.
No,
that dude is a ghost.
He was a top 6-7 pick.
Yeah, dude, both of those guys didn't get their rookie options picked up. Marquise Chris or Dragan Bender. They picked both of those guys in like the top 8.
It's crazy. Marcus Chris just decided that he didn't feel like playing defense. He doesn't like boxing guys out, and he's not interested in rebounding. Well, when you're his size and you're playing in the NBA, that's kind of a prerequisite.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that he's not any good.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a downside for him.
It doesn't help, but lack of effort also doesn't help, because there's a lot of guys that have actually stuck around in this league for a long time that weren't that good, that just put in like 100% effort in every single game and ended up at least being serviceable pieces to a team.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever happen with him.
Anything else interesting for you on Phoenix outside of Booker and Ayton? I think Mikal Bridges, 3,400 on DK is real difficult to overlook.
Well, I think that comes down to if TJ Warren plays or not, because if TJ Warren doesn't play, then you could get a whole lot of additional run from Bridges. And it's looking like Warren could definitely miss this game. So let's wait for some news coming out of shoot around. But this is interesting to me. Look, in a bad slate like this, I'm hesitant to do so, but I have to at least mention Trevor Booker because of how many minutes he's playing. Like, if you look at, Trevor Ariza.
I was like, dude, which team is he on?
Trevor Booker, I think, is playing in like China right now.
I was like, fuck, I missed this one.
Trevor Ariza, man, his minutes, like he's gonna have a lot of really underwhelming games because all he does now is kind of shoot threes, even though his rebounding for some reason is shot through the roof the past couple days. But if you get like 10, 11, 12 shots from Ariza and he's playing 38 minutes in a close game, you could really do worse at this price point. If TJ Warren doesn't play, it should only help him more. So I actually think there is good value on this team. Bridges, you already mentioned he's super cheap. He'd be a top value if Warren's out, even if he plays like 26, 27 minutes. Josh Jackson's in the doghouse after some just heinous performances with Devin Booker and Cannon out.
Yeah.
So,
chat's talking
Bridges
about Josh Jackson maybe having vertigo, which would explain a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, I guess.
I haven't seen that at all. It got mentioned in chat, so I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, who mentioned it?
Manningdale City, but I think somebody else said it a little bit earlier too. Let me search for it. Josh Jackson vertigo. Virginia Tech quarterback Josh Jackson out indefinitely. That's not who I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's from football.
Yeah, maybe it's a different Josh Jackson. I don't know.
I'm looking at this too. All I can find, I had Googled it as well. Vertigo Flowers, the 50 best garage rock bands of all time.
Should we be playing a lot of Brooklyn here? Phoenix Suns, 10% worse than average fantasy points per possession given up. That is shockingly high.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing too. I'm so surprised that they're playing at one of the slowest paces in the league.
Yeah.
I'm also quite surprised that they have an offensive rating that's right around the top 10 this year. My guess is it doesn't. They shot the Sixers off the court the other day just by drilling every three and racking up like 28 steals. It was ridiculous. I think it's kind of like if we think this game right now has a 1-point spread. Phoenix is favored by 1 point.
Correct.
We like Booker.
Yeah.
I'll speak for myself. Ayton, Ariza, even I don't mind because of those minutes. And it'll be hard for him to fail with those minutes if Warren's out. And Bridges, that's a lot of guys from Phoenix. You probably, if that's the case, want to look the other way as well. It just sucks because D'Angelo Russell, like if he played 30-some minutes, at this price, he'd be an absolute lock.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
I agree. He's great. 6K is a really nice price for him if those minutes can rise.
Yeah.
Jared Allen, 5,200. Are we overlooking him right now? I mean, that's probably one of the better prices on DraftKings of the entire day.
Yep. Jared Allen's another guy. Like I've been really impressed with him this year. Really impressed with Jared Allen. Defensively, just pretty much everything. I don't think he's ever going to be someone that comes out here and is like dropping monster fantasy games, but definitely gives you the 15 point, 11 rebound, 3 block upside that at that price would do you well, especially where you get the double bonus. I think Jared Allen is a pretty solid play. I like Ayton, but even though Ayton is like an absolute freak of nature, is an athletic monster, does everything, I still think defensively there's a long ways to go before he's someone that you don't want to put anyone out on the court against. And then Hollis Jefferson. Hollis Jefferson played 30 minutes last game.
Yeah.
That's encouraging. I wish I could tell you whether or not I knew that it was going to sustain, but I think Hollis Jefferson's also in play here. This is a good spot for him, and it's a spot where I think when Ayton is off the court, that you'll have Jefferson as the small ball 5, and some Ed Davis. Ed Davis is real cheap. I don't think you need to go to Ed Davis, at least not on DraftKings.
No, I think FanDuel, I think it's fine. Hollis Jefferson is a guy that's coming up in like every single crunch for me. And, part of the reason is because there's no one to play at power forward.
Right. I think projections oftentimes overvalue him. Not overvalue is the wrong word, just over project him. The only reason I say that is it's just, for me, it's really difficult to gauge his playing time for days. So What are your projections? What do they have his minutes at?
I have him at 26.
Well, if they have him at 26, all right, and he's still getting plugged into everything, then yeah, there you
He
go.
has
That doesn't.
He has the best fantasy points per possession number at power forward of anybody that's playing today.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about FanDuel. Sorry. Right.
Yeah.
You're talking about FanDuel. Oh, well then okay. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Sorry, I thought we were talking DraftKings here.
Yeah, he's got a much better price. Well, he's got I don't want to say much better, but he's 4,800 on DK, so it's not like
great price on DraftKings, but you have more flexibility positionally there, and you don't.
Yeah,
I
gotta play two power forwards, one way or the other. So
exactly. So yeah,
you
see Karras reverse price
8K on FanDuel.
Yeah, he's above 7K on DraftKings too.
Yeah, that's a tough sell for me.
It's kind of simple. Like if you're playing cash games, I'll use DraftKings for. If you're playing cash games, you're playing Beal.
Yep.
On draft, and then in tournaments, if you want to get different, like there's Caris LeVert is way more volatile. Oh, you know what? Never mind. They moved him to small forward only.
Dude, I just typed in G to sort DraftKings, and I was like, I wonder where Caris LeVert like matches up to these guys. And I typed it in, and I was like, I must have typed the wrong damn letter because Caris LeVert's nowhere to be found.
I did not know that. So
is he just small forward then?
He's just small forward.
Of course he is. These sites, man.
Meanwhile, Luka Doncic is only point guard. And he's not like him and Dennis Smith Jr. are both only point guard. Both of them. Same team. Both of them play 30 plus minutes per game in the starting lineup. And Dennis Smith Jr. and Doncic are exclusively available at the point guard position. Please explain that one to me.
Nikola Jokic was a power forward for a week on FanDuel.
Yeah.
It's just like
it's crazy.
He's like one of the 3 best centers in basketball. It's not even like he's just some guy that plays 28 minutes.
That's crazy. And I understand I actually DraftKings would do this a lot on short slates, like 3 game slates. They'd make someone like Giannis, eligible at this position and this position because otherwise like they would just be terrible. So they're trying to add depth and all. But the whole Luka Doncic point guard only thing really makes no sense to me. And they've brought him to the shooting guard, small forward with both of them. They've given him shooting guard, small forward eligibility, and then they move him back to point guard. Like he's not point guard.
No,
it's crazy to me, man. It's crazy.
I'll never understand it. I feel like they're just like, you know what? This is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's like making tomato sauce.
Yeah, who the hell knows at this rate? Who the hell knows? What I do know is what I was going to say is LeVert would be a pretty solid tournament pivot away from Bradley Beal on DraftKings if he was shooting guard. Just because you look at their production this year, they're actually pretty similar. If there's a healthy John Wall on the court, that Beal's going to give you have a pretty good idea of the range of outcomes there. And Caris LeVert hasn't been far off. So that would have been interesting given that he's taken, upwards of 20 shots in certain games. And this is against a bad Phoenix defense that I expect to start playing up and more in pace. But that's not the case. Either way, LeVert tournament only. That's all.
Caris LeVert is the second most expensive small forward on the DraftKings slate.
Yeah,
which is just
pretty incredible.
How does that shit happen? Oh god,
it's outrageous.
Anybody else you want to touch on in this game, and we can close it out with Portland and Milwaukee?
I think we hit on it for now. If we missed anything, chat will let us know, and then we can circle back.
Speaking of, everybody, like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up. Super, super helpful for you. NBA Strategy is the promo code. 7-day free trial. If you want to try out Fantasy Cruncher and you use this promo code, please select a package that includes Fantasy Cruncher. If you do not, you will inevitably email me and say, I can't use Fantasy Cruncher. And then I will email you back and tell you, you can't use Fantasy Cruncher because you didn't pick it to begin with. So, pick it to begin with.
Those are fun emails, I'm sure.
They were to begin with. They're not when they're multiple every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I wasn't serious, but yeah, I would think that they're not fun.
No. Yeah, so NBA strategy, use it. You can try out all of the content at awesemo.com. You can try out Fantasy Cruncher, 7-day free trial. Final game. Blazers and Bucks. 113.5 implied total for the Blazers, 114.5 for the Bucks. Great game. Bucks D, 6% better than average, limiting fantasy points per possession. Their defense has just been nuts so far this year. But we'll start with the Portland side. Dame Lillard, 10,100 on FanDuel, 9,600 on DK. I think Dame is in a spot where like I'll just take what I can get because I really don't like this matchup. But there aren't a ton of guys that have just like nuclear ceilings today.
All right, so if I'm playing Dame, I'm playing Dame because he's Dame. It's that simple.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm
exactly.
playing Dame because he, as you say, he could go nuclear, not nuclear. Common misspeak.
Shit, did I say it right or wrong to start?
Oh, I have no idea. Say it naturally.
Nuclear.
There you go. Nuclear. It's natural too. There, you said it right. I wasn't talking about you. I have to catch myself sometimes.
I probably said it wrong to start, and now I'm correcting myself to sound smarter.
He went nuclear. He went nuclear, bro. And it's one of those guys that. But no, dude, Dame has a lot. He has a big ceiling. Now, it's also that like 80% of the time, Damian Lillard ends up being John Wall, right?
Yeah.
But Dame Lillard can also just erupt for 30 real points in the second half. Now, the thing about this matchup is that the Bucks are really good at just like closing all doors and windows, right? They can seal off the perimeter because Middleton's a good defender. You know, I'm not going to give Bledsoe too much credit, but their scheme is really solid. And then you have a long-armed, just freakish Giannis to pretty much do whatever is required of him defensively. This season, when you just look at like efficiency allowed to the position, only 2 teams are allowing a worse efficiency to opposing point guards. The Bucks are just very good at limiting their production. And another thing they do is, if you just watch them play, one thing the Bucks are extremely good at, they're really good at preventing guards from driving into the lane, like from getting any momentum driving into the lane, which is why a lot of times you'll see centers do well against them because they'll just lob it up to the center because they kind of will sit everyone up around the perimeter and just stick a one-on-one matchup around the paint. This matchup is not easy for Dame. It's that simple. And it does worry me a little bit. But he's also the kind of guy that could hit, 10 3-pointers and then nobody cares about the matchup anymore.
Milwaukee this season in shot frequency, defensively, number 1 limiting shots at the rim. Only 28% of their shots get to the rim.
Would you look at that? Yeah.
Here's why I think you should like Dame a little bit more. 27th in 3-point attempts. They're really good at limiting corner threes. They are dead last in non-corner threes. Dame Lillard not going to be shooting a ton of corner threes.
Attempts or percentages?
Attempts.
Okay. What are they? So wait, they're allowing the third most?
They're allowing the most threes above the break in the entire league.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. They don't allow you to drive to the rim. But I'm curious, do we have the percentages on what they're allowing on? I can look it up.
I do. So teams are shooting, they have the 8th best percentage allowed in all threes. People shooting corner threes or non-corner threes against them 32%, which makes some sense to me. Look, generally speaking, I don't think the teams can largely control 3-point percentage. That seems to come out in statistics. I know the Celtics have been near the top in that under Brad Stevens. I think that's probably very specifically because of Brad Stevens. I would expect that Milwaukee gives up more threes and hopes that they can close out because every single one of their dudes has arms that are like my legs.
Right. Yeah. Well, what's actually really interesting is that Milwaukee is allowing, at least from what I'm looking at, the 3rd lowest 3-point percentage and the 5th most threes per game. Because as you mentioned, they're allowing, according to NBA.com, No team is allowing more 3-point attempts than the Bucks this year, total 3-point attempts. Now, third lowest percentage, but because of how many they're attempting, it's showing that they're allowing the fifth most in the league. So that is interesting.
Yeah,
But
people are getting them up from everywhere above the break.
Let's take a look at Dame's drives per game, because this to me is actually pretty crucial to whether or not I trust his upside here. Lillard drives per game. Oh wow, he's lower this season, but he's still at almost 13 drives per game. McCollum is at 8.9. That's pretty low. The truth is, unlike guys like DeRozan against Milwaukee is a really bad matchup because DeRozan, right? DeRozan like lives to drive into the lane.
That's why I didn't take him last year, and he went out and scored like 40 points in the first quarter. I fully faded him on a video, and he ate my shit.
Was it against Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Of course.
Dude, I remember it vivid. I fully faded him. I was like, I'm not on DeMar. This is a terrible game for him. And he went out and had like 25 first quarter points.
Yep. If anyone will do it, he'll just he'll ruin any metric. Like any sense in statistics, DeRozan will go out and be like, eat shit, pal. I'm going to knock down 20 mid-range jumpers a game in 2018 and make the All-Star. It doesn't make any sense, but
there it is, January 1st. DeMar DeRozan drops 52 on Bucks and Raptors win.
That's crazy. Wait, when was this?
It was either like New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or something like that. But if you can go back, the video is on my personal YouTube channel where I fully faded him and he hit value in like the first 9 minutes.
That is so wild. This is last year, right?
It was last year, yeah.
Because what I'd love to know.
It was the franchise scoring record. And I fully faded him like an asshole.
Unbelievable. Look at that. And then he put 33 up against him. Okay, so 52. I just want to see how many 3-point attempts this dude took.
He couldn't miss.
He was 5 for 9 from 3.
Yeah.
13 from the charity stripe. 17 of 29 total.
Yeah. He had 21 in the first quarter.
Dude, it really is like the worst possible matchup for DeRozan.
And I looked at my phone and he had, like I said, 21 in the first quarter. By 7:30, my Twitter mentions were ridiculous.
Just flies in the face of logic. That's amazing.
It was so bad. So
yeah,
wow. It's good that you bring up DeMar. Milwaukee allowing 35% of shots in the mid-range. That is 27th in the league, which means quote-unquote bad. They allow more than others. CJ McCollum takes 38% of his shots in the mid-range. He is an 80th percentile in taking those shots. So if they're going to allow them and CJ likes to get them, is this a CJ game? Maybe?
Is it ever a CJ game is the question. I guess. I don't know, man. This dude's just been really tough to play. He's been really tough to roster. Is he too cheap? We'll keep coming back to, is CJ McCollum too cheap? Honestly, he's probably right around where he belongs. Like CJ McCollum has, just for example, okay, CJ McCollum in 10 games this year. Yeah, we're gonna look at the box scores for a second. He has one game above 40, and including that game, 2 games above 30, and one was 34. He's not really he put it, actually I'll just make it real simple. For McCollum to give you the 40 fantasy point game now, he needs 30 real points. He needs 27 real points.
Yeah. I feel like he needs to gamble more defensively.
He could. I won't speak to that. I'm not necessarily up. McCollum and Lillard's backcourt defense 2 years ago, not last year, 2 years ago, was one of the worst in the league. They got crossed up all the time.
Yep.
They couldn't handle switches. And then last year, it's like they're working great together. So they made adjustments there. this guy just doesn't really do anything outside of score, and if he's not scoring, you're kind of left, you know,
Yeah.
not in great shape.
Yeah, he's an incredibly underwhelming person to roster.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out though, because they might give him 18 shots from the mid range, and if it goes, it goes.
Yeah, he could pull a DeRozan.
Yeah, lucky me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it wasn't whatever. I'm going to take a retroactive L on DeRozan, and good job, DeMar.
Yeah.
But
So what do you like from the Portland side here? Anything? Ignoring Dame, it kind of transcends matchup, but
right.
this is a tough spot, man.
I think Nurkic is interesting. I do. I think Nurkic is interesting. Obviously, a lot of this depends on a lot of what Nurkic in terms of minutes. A lot of how he performs depends on what these lineups are going to look like. But I think you get, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes from Brook Lopez, and then you get some 5 minutes from John Henson. I think Nurkic is always somebody to consider. His minutes are super volatile. He's only a tournament play. But again, if he gets 28, 30 minutes, which he's done in 2 of his last 3 games, the last one was a blowout, but he was actually on pace for that. And he had a monster game in 23 minutes, 19 and 12. Nurkic is always a guy that I'm willing to consider. And if there's one area that Milwaukee is pretty weak at, I mean, we could nitpick and find more, but they're really not great against opposing centers, because like Brook Lopez is not a guy you worry about shutting shit down. He's not a good rebounder. He can block shots, but that's about it. And now Brook Lopez is playing pretty far away from the basket. So that would be my biggest concern is, if Terry Stotts doesn't want Nurkic chasing Lopez out to the 3-point line when he's attempting 7, 9, 11 3-pointers per game, that could get Nurkic chased off the court really quickly. And if that is the case, well, then there's a chance that, you get some like small ball Zach Collins or something. That would be my concern though, is that Nurkic, that Stotts doesn't want Nurkic traveling out to beyond the arc to guard Brook Lopez jacking up double-digit threes.
It's starting to make me think that Zach Lopez, Zach Collins is a guy that we need to pay attention to here.
Both fucked up on the but it definitely could.
I have a hard time.
And Nurkic could also get in a lot of foul trouble.
Yeah,
if Giannis keeps driving at him.
Yeah, he certainly could. Bucks have been. I mean, I can't speak to Nurkic specifically. Blazers' defensive free throw rate 6th in the league, so they've been pretty good at limiting fouls and putting guys on the line. Giannis a very different beast when it comes to that. Yeah, it's really hard to like anything on the Portland side, unless you're playing on FanDuel, where Aminu is $300 cheaper than he is on DK, and Evan Turner is $500 cheaper than he is on DK. Not that I think that Evan Turner is a good player or anything, but I just mean, the price point is very difficult to sell on DraftKings. Zach Collins is $4,100 on FanDuel today at a position where it's utter garbage, and we have him projected for 6% ownership. I think that's honestly, would you even be surprised if Zach Collins was the highest point scorer on FanDuel at power forward today? He's only got to outpace Ilyasova and Markieff Morris and Aminu. I mean, half the guys are on his own team.
Yeah, but I'd be a little bit surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked, because I really do think this matchup could swing his way, where he's the guy that Stotts wants out there.
Yeah.
Over Nurkic. So no, I don't think it would be crazy. I also think that Aminu, I don't love playing this guy, because he's strictly a 3-and-D guy, and I don't expect the double-digit rebounds to continue, even though it's been pretty insane at times. What's interesting here is that there's never a good defender for Giannis.
No.
But Aminu, if you had to pick somebody, would be your best chance.
Sure.
So I think he could play, upwards of 35 minutes here if Giannis is out there for 37 or so. I think Aminu gets a lot of run in this matchup.
Milwaukee is the side that I want to smash, and a lot of that has to do with their FanDuel price points. Do you have any interesting hot take for Giannis today?
No, I don't. He's just really expensive.
Yeah.
Like he's you want to talk about transcending matchups, it's just there's not much when you're this expensive, not much analysis goes into it because Giannis has been not great in good matchups and excellent in bad matchups, and he's done that so many times. Yeah. If you think the game stays close, which it should, there's only one game that has a spread. It's more than 2 points, and that's the Charlotte game. And you think that he's going to be less popular than a lot of other guys because he's so expensive, then you're playing him. And that's really just the mindset I'm bringing into this.
Yeah, I assume that I'll have him in half of everything I do today.
Yeah, I'm really curious what his ownership's going to be, and I don't have a good grasp on it yet.
Yeah, and obviously this is a very different discussion on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. I mean, it's a completely different game on a 4-game slate with Giannis being $6,100 more expensive than any other small forward.
Right.
And now with dropping your lowest score, having the money to get to Giannis is certainly not a barrier any longer on FanDuel.
No, we have Giannis with projected 13% ownership on DraftKings. My guess is it comes up, but on a 4-game slate, if Giannis is if Giannis has 20% lower ownership than Bradley Beal and John Wall, then I think it comes up. But right now, that's what you're seeing, and to me, that's way too low for a guy the only guy on this slate that has 80+ fantasy point upside.
What do you think of Brook Lopez?
I think this matchup goes both ways. If Nurkic comes out there and is gobbling up boards and dominating around the rim, which is possible.
Yep.
Just on putback opportunities and such, then it hurts Lopez. But if Lopez comes out and starts jacking up threes and making them, then he's going to be in a good spot all night. But I think all in all, this is not a matchup that I'm particularly fond of for Lopez. I think you could just do better here. Plus, the center position, even on a 4-game slate, gives me plenty of options that I like.
Okay. Middleton and Bledsoe, any interest there? I don't think there's much else to talk about other than those guys.
Those guys are tough for me. They're always difficult for me to gauge. They really are. I mean,
I like Middleton a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
See, I was going to say, and then if this was like a 9-game slate, I don't think this game would really interest me much at all. The entirety of this game.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree.
What makes you love Middleton? I'm all ears.
Price on FanDuel is just fantastic. So we've got Beal at 8,800 at shooting guard, Luka at 81, Devin Booker at 81, Karis LeVert at 8, and then Middleton at 72. And he's going to be out there on the floor. I'm not particularly worried about the defensive matchup for Middleton himself. You assume Aminu to Giannis, which puts who on Chris Middleton? DJ?
I guess. Probably. You'll see some Evan Turner on him.
Yeah. Not exactly a scary prop position for Chris Middleton.
Right. Not a dominant force. He's a better defender than McCollum is, but that's not saying a ton. I think Portland defensively is better as a unit than they are individually. So there's that. But no, that's a very fair point.
He's just kind of on a price island.
Aminu presumably on Giannis, then it makes things really interesting for somebody like Middleton for sure.
Like $7,200 Middleton or $6,700 CJ McCollum. I think the preference is pretty clearly Middleton in that scenario.
Yeah, probably.
And then it's $800 either direction to get to another player.
Both of these teams have a top 5 defensive rating this year.
Yeah.
Milwaukee just passed Boston for the number 1 defensive rating in the league. and Portland is 4th. These are two good defensive units, like overall.
And you know what's crazy?
So,
Neither one of their defenses create turnovers. Bucks are 27th, Blazers 29th.
Which is really weird for Milwaukee because you have a few guys in there that just have like really long wingspans that should be able to get their hands on
I would assume they were in the top 5. If you asked me that without showing me it, I'd be like, oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they get steal upon steal because they're always tipping passes.
Well, Giannis is averaging only a steal per game this season.
Let's see if anybody on Milwaukee is good at creating turnovers so far this year. Obviously, somebody has to be, but... All right, player stats.
Everyone's below their career averages right now. Except probably Middleton. Middleton's racking up a decent amount.
Middleton is a 78th percentile wing in steal rate, but like Brogdon, nothing. Brook Lopez, clearly nothing. It's pretty much just Middleton and then a couple guys that like Eric Bledsoe at 43rd percentile as a point guard in steal rate. That's super surprising.
And Bledsoe's averaging, almost a full steal less than his career average.
Yeah. Maybe that'll
kind of weird.
I assume that's scheme that, normally he was gambling a bit more and now Bud has it, a little bit more organized. Be my guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they're sacrificing steals for forcing bad shots.
Right.
That's what this
not
team's
causing
really
as many turnovers to be a better functional team.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
it seems to be working.
Yeah, they're for sure. They're really good at doing that. Just look at opponent field goal percentage. It's the lowest in the league by 2 full percent.
That's insanity. It's just
Portland's allowing the 3rd lowest field goal percentage to opponents. Yeah, these are two good defenses. That's why I said if this were a bigger slate, like I'd have no problem fading it.
Oh, yeah, it's just
this game.
It's a really great game, though. I'm anxious to see how it shakes out.
Oh, it's a great game to watch. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the only great game to watch. I mean, Mavs Wizards, if you're into, like, I don't know, hate watching games for the Wizards.
Masochism?
Yeah. I think we're done here.
I think so. I mean, we just talked a while on 4 games.
Yeah. I mean, this is a lot like trying to have a process show and then for baseball and then talking about Carmelo Anthony for 45 minutes. This is more of a free form thing on a short slate.
Yeah. It's like, get a first look at it where, I haven't I'm looking at it for the first time too. So it's it definitely gets you set to at least know where to look.
Yeah.
And I think a few of these, like Milwaukee, Portland's going to force you to look there, even though, again, bigger slate, I really would want nothing to do with this game outside of watch it on my TV.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. 12:30. Not the normal 2:30 hour, 12:30. Andrew, Ben, and Tim going to be doing a golf show breaking down the Hiawatha Classic or something. I'm getting that wrong, but there's a golf show breaking down the PGA tournament this week. We'll have the deep dive from Adam in the early afternoon, probably a little bit earlier than normal since it's only a 4-gamer. Deeper dive at 5, live before lock, Chris and Eddie starting at 6. Got a lot of content for today. Got anything else you want to plug?
Every day. No, I think that's it, man. I think you pretty much hit on all of it.
Okay. Like and subscribe, everybody. It's very, very helpful for you guys to hit that thumbs up button. Makes us feel all good in the downstairs area. NBA Strategy is the promo
Trouser
code.
Action.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Thanks for spending time with us. We will be back. Laffy and I will be back together Thursday morning. Myself and Adam will be back again tomorrow. But tune into everything we've got going today, people. It may just be a 4-game slate, but that doesn't mean we're slowing down on content. Best of luck today. I'll see you guys at the top. Later on.